Hey, what is up, everybody? Sean here, and today we are talking about two very taboo topics, and that is age and money. Listen, we all know you're not supposed to be asking people how old they are, and we also know that you should not be asking people how much money they have in the account or how much money they make per year. But we're going to be breaking both of those rules and talking about how much money you should have saved by a certain age. Now, if you are as excited as I am, hold on to your butts, smash that like button, hit the subscribe channel, and let's do this. Okay, so the other day I came across an article, and it was a 2016 Consumer Finance Report from the Federal Reserve, and it stated that the average family household had a net worth of $692,100. And that just blew my mind because I was thinking, wait a second, every single thing I ever read, most things I'm always watching is always saying that, most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The average savings rate is only around 7%. The average bank account usually has around $40,000. And I'm like, how? This doesn't add up. But then I remembered, wait a second, just like every number that's touted, it really depends on the context in which that number is being used. Let's talk about this for a quick second. So this almost $700,000 figure was the average. And if you remember from grade school, the average is when you add all the household numbers up, you would divide it by the total number of households, and then that would give you the average. The problem with this, though, is that that number is highly skewed by the ultra wealthy, the people who make an insane amount of money, who have massive net worths in the millions and the billions, and that really does skew that number dramatically. I really do think that a better way of looking at this is the median value. I really do think that a better number and a better way of looking at this is using the median value. And median value is when you take all the numbers, line them up from lowest to highest, and then you find the number that's in the middle. The reason why I think this is a much better indicator of it is because more than likely, that's going to be the people around you. It basically takes away the really, really high figures and the really, really low figures and gives you a better idea of who your neighbors are. Another really cool fact that I found is that the feds actually do a survey every 3 years to look at trends on household net worths and incomes and all that. And they found that from 3 years ago, the highest growth in net worth came from households that have no college degree. And it was up from 24% all the way up to 29%. And those of households that had a college degree only rose by 2%. Okay, so to truly get an idea of where you should be relative to your age, we first got to understand how to actually calculate net worth so we can make that comparison. Your net worth is simply your assets minus your liabilities. So the best way of figuring this out is simply by, number one, adding up your assets. So this is going to include equity that's in your home or your car, savings accounts, checking accounts, could be your brokerage accounts, IRAs, 401ks, investments that you have, and that would be your total assets. The next step you would do is start subtracting all of your liabilities. So it's going to be all the auto loans that you still owe, the amount that you still owe on your home, could be any debts that you have, credit cards, student loans. Once you take your assets and you subtract your liabilities, whatever you have left over is your net worth. So the first category I'm going to look at is 20s. Now, for most people in their 20s, they probably have a negative net worth. And that's because if you went to college, you probably have student loans that you're paying on. But I'm going to go ahead and just put a $0 for in your 20s, because if you even have $0 net worth in your 20s, honestly, you're doing fine. You have plenty of time to build wealth, to start getting in that career, start making money, and start saving. Now, I do have a few tips though. If you are in your 20s, this is definitely the time you want to start an IRA account or a Roth IRA and start investing for your future. If you get started in your early mid 20s and you invest even as little as like $100 a month or a couple $100 a month, that will easily become multiple millions of dollars by the time you go to retire in your 60s. If you can get started now, you're going to be astronomically ahead of most people by the time you go to retire. So the second category I have here is 30 to 35, and the average net worth is $76,200. Now remember, this is the average. So if you're somewhere around $11,100, you're actually doing really, really well. Now there's a few tips I have if you are between the age of 30 to 35. If you have not started your IRA yet, definitely get started now. Start making that a habit. Also, start to open up your 401k if you are with a company that offers that. And you also should be really pursuing and increasing your credit score the best that you can, because this could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your life when you go to buy your first home, car loans. You should have a credit score somewhere around like 700 to at least 750 absolute minimum. The other little tip I would say is if you can have about 1 year's worth of annual salary saved by the age of 30 to 35, you are rock solid and you are crushing it. Okay, so the second category we're looking at is the ages of 35 to 44. Now, this starts to jump up a little bit with the average net worth jumping to $288,700. However, which is the one that's most likely where you're probably going to be, is around $59,800. So if you have somewhere around $60,000 in net worth, you're actually doing pretty well. Now, the one tip I do have here is that the goal should be between the ages of 35 to 44, you should have close to 2 times your annual salary in your savings to make sure that you have a really good track record of retiring on time. The category we're talking about is the ages 45 to 54. Now, this is where the net worth starts to increase by quite a bit. The average net worth in this category is $727,000, with the mean net worth being around $124,000. So if you have around $124,000, you are rocking and rolling and you're doing pretty well for yourself. I would say by this age category, you should really try to have 3 times your annual income in savings to make sure you're on track for retiring. Okay, so the next category is ages 55 to 64. Now, this definitely starts to shoot up with the average net worth being almost $1.2 million and the mean net worth being around $187,000. Now, keep in mind, this age category is when it really gets interesting. And that's because when your net worth is multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, your savings rate begins to exponentiate as well as your net worth. So let me give you an example. Let's say you manage to have $500,000 in net worth or savings in your 50s to early 60s. Well, if you're averaging 10% a year in compound interest, that means that $500,000, you're getting $50,000 that year in interest on your money. That's way more than what most people save in a year. And so that's why when you start hitting your 50s and your 60s, your net worth can exponentiate astronomically. Okay, so the next category is ages 65 to 74. Now, not much is starting to change on the average net worth, still staying at around $1.1 million. However, the mean net worth is hitting around $224,000. Your goal by this age category should be somewhere around 8 to 10 times your annual salary in savings and net worth. And the final category is ages 75 plus. Now, once again, nothing really changes here. National average net worth is somewhere around $1.1 million, and the mean net worth is still around the 224,000-ish range. But by this time, you should be retired and you should be living off of the compound interest of your money, and you should be able to live comfortably without having to work anymore. Okay, so let's talk about this for 1 second. I'm sure right now there's 3 categories of people. You have one category of people who are saying like, oh my gosh, I'm way ahead of schedule. I'm doing great. I'm going to keep hustling and grinding, making it happen. Then you probably have another category of people who are saying, okay, right on track, doing pretty well. But my guess is the vast majority of people that are watching this video is way behind schedule according to this timeline. So the first thing I have to say is don't sweat it. It's totally fine. Listen, so much can change in the future, but it's important to see this timetable and see maybe where you should be relative to your age. So if you are behind schedule, do not freak out. It does mean you may be behind schedule a little bit, but there's so many ways of completely changing that around. And that's going to come from having a stronger budget, learning to increase your income, and really starting to make headway and focusing on your financial future and your ability to retire. Now, if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk all the time about financial topics ranging from budgeting to increasing income to building your net worth to investing. So if this is something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Keep checking out my videos as we go forward. Comment below. I want to hear, where are you at in this timetable? Are you ahead of schedule, behind schedule? What are you doing right now? I hope you're doing great, and let's keep crushing it.